Well, welcome to Straight Shooting News and the Awakening as 2023 begins. Episode 3 of this series that we started. This one will be called Obama Classified Documents. Promises made, but can they be kept? Saying that, I'm your host, Nana Red. As we told you in our first show that there'll be no resolutions in 2003, just a massive awakening that will result in resolutions in the future that will benefit the whole human race. Stay the course and remain confident and positive. We will help you to the awakening. We're coming to you from Merrimack Valley, Massachusetts, where a shot heard around the world was fired at the Concord Bridge that changed the way the human race would be ruled or not be ruled by kings, queens, emperors, or czars. Well, what we have here tonight is we have to deal with the carnival blockers and the self-serving politicians. It's time the people, we the people, put our differences aside and unite. Everything you see tonight will be brought to you under the fair use laws. Now, with that being said, tonight we got an interesting show. We've been listening to quite a few of the carnival blocking going on this week. A lot of news, saying a lot of things, but leaving out some very important parts. I gotta wonder why. So in our first segment, we're going to cover the Obama documents, China and treason. Now, the interesting part, what no one said all week, we listened all week long about how, well, there was a difference between President Trump and Obama. And I say, let's just take the Trump element out of this and let's just focus on Biden. They found Biden's with secret classified documents. Strange timing, yes. You'll see some of the timelines being expressed in some of the videos we're going to show you. But what no one's really said all week long was how Trump had the ability to declassify documents. Biden didn't. I waited all week for someone to say it. These aren't Biden's classified documents. These are Obama's classified documents. Keep that in mind as you watch the show, because this brings a whole new, shall we say, concept of what we're actually looking at here. Because how did Biden get Obama's documents? And it's awful funny how the aide who was working at the White House for Biden was also an aide for the Obama. And she supposedly was the one that notified everybody about these. A lot of strange pieces to this puzzle right here. But there's this thing that we always talk about. It's called the Constitution. As we told you in many, many shows, the only way to correct everything that's going on is the Constitution. So here's what we're going to start off with a word from my old friend, and then we're going to go into a little segment of what's been taking place. Roll that.
The founders wondered about that too, and they warned us, and they said, if the morality of the society dwindles and they don't know the difference between right and wrong and truth, the Constitution won't work. You want a perfect example of the fulfillment of that prophecy is the Constitution isn't working right now, but it's still available to us if we ever decide to use it. And our job is to make sure at least the next generation is exposed to it and know the difference between a nonviolent society and one that is based on aggression and dealing with the government. The worst thing that we have to face now is the collusion between big business and personal items that get into bed with the government. Twitter has exposed how the government, use the government would use and help social media to do these things, to take over. So that is, I think, available to us. I think people are waking up. We're moving in the right direction, but I think it's also a very serious matter. And it has to be known that truth, I believe, is truth is treason in an empire of lies. And guess what? We came close to it. Those few doctors and general people throughout, and the journalists and all, that was considered in their personal life treasonous, but it only can be reversed by the people having a different moral standard than what we hear from our mainstream media, our social media, and also from our government. Especially be cautious about what we get out of our government schools. The Constitution isn't working right now, but it's still available to us if we ever decide to use it.
Now learn that the University of Penn successfully lobbied the FBI to drop their China initiative, which was an investigation by the FBI into all the reach that China has with our research universities around the United States. Even the most liberal university presidents will tell you they're concerned that China has infiltrated all of our universities with spies who are stealing our intellectual property, who are stealing all of our research, development, and technology and things like that.
So Joe Biden's staff discovered, and Joe Biden admitted, that he'd been storing classified documents in several locations: his office, his garage near his Corvette, something called the Penn Biden Center. What's weird is that the DOJ has not raided any of Joe Biden's properties, even though we've been told for many months now that these are very serious crimes. A civilian employee of the Department of Defense went to prison last year for taking a couple of classified documents to her hotel room. So you can see what happens to civilians or normal people when classified documents are, quote, mishandled. Buck Sexton has spent a lot of time around classified documents. He once was a CIA officer. This was the world that you lived in, that you worked in. Assess the DOJ's response to what Biden did.
Well, if you were a normal person, which you were getting at before, who happened to work in the national security apparatus, you lived in constant fear of even the smallest infraction of classified protocols. I saw adults break down in tears because they thought they may have misplaced something even inside what was overall a classified facility. And certainly your career and perhaps even your freedom could be taken from you with even the most minute, even the smallest infraction. But as we know, a true tyranny isn't the strict enforcement of all laws. It is the disparate enforcement of laws. So that's been the case for the powerful and the everyday folks in national security all along. But now you have to add to that the Democrat layer and what we see here with Joe Biden, which is obviously a sense. The fact that he brought up that his Corvette was in the garage and it's locked. Tucker, if I had said that to security personnel at the CIA, don't worry about it, bro. I've got all the docs at home locked up in a safe or whatever in my own private residence. They would have taken my badge, told me my clearances were revoked, and I would probably be awaiting federal charges.
When you saw the photograph of the top secret documents laid out on the floor at Mar-a-Lago, what did you think to yourself, looking at that image?
How that could possibly happen, how anyone could be that irresponsible. And I thought, what data was in there that may compromise sources and methods? By that I mean names of people who helped, or et cetera. And it's just totally irresponsible.
Wow. That's totally irresponsible. That's the president of the United States saying that about a former president of the United States. And first, let's go back to the Constitution. It's still available to us if we want to use it. Ron Paul was right there. But notice what he did say. He mentioned the terms treason. And he also said, it's up to we the people to make sure it's being used. Keep that in mind when you're looking for someone to come and save you. Now, so why is it that civics today and U.S. history isn't mandatory in all U.S. schools? That's almost becoming obvious. Then we have China has infiltrated U.S. universities, and even the most liberal university, that was Mr. Comas said that, they're concerned over the Chinese infiltration. Well, we mentioned to you months ago about how we gave you a bit of a timeline on what happened with China. How I think it was, I think at the end of 2017, they decided to investigate the universities, the U.S. universities, to see what's going on with China and the universities. I think by the end, they published a paper, and we supplied the links to that. If not, I'll probably have that come out in a book I'm going to release about how they found China's influence in our universities. Even Mike Pompeo, who I'm not too keen on right now, brought it up at a conference in, I believe it was February or January of 2020. But to get back to the point, the Chinese were caught. At the end of 2018, they were caught. In May of 2019, Communist China, the Communist People's Party, declared war on the United States of America. We keep stressing that point because most people don't get it. And that's how you classify treason. That's how our founders classified it. It's called aiding and abetting the enemy. So what exactly is going on here? I mean, we played that clip for you from Buck's Sexton. There's radio shows now, and it was with the CIA, explaining what would happen if anyone else, even in the agency, who misplaced a document inside the agency, could end up being reprimanded and locked up. And let's get back to the point you made at the beginning of the show. Those documents were not the president's documents when they went missing. Those were Obama's documents from his presidency, who they all claim that all his documents were taken away and properly stored when they go after President Trump. Evidently, all those documents weren't properly stored and taken away. With that, let's take a look at this U Penn Biden Center thing that a lot of us have been hearing about. Play that.
What is this Penn Biden Center? The Penn Biden Center. What's the purpose of the Penn Biden Center? Well, in April of 2016, one of Hunter Biden's business associates explained the purpose in an email to Hunter. He said that the Penn Biden Center, quote, operates like the Clinton Global Initiative without the money raise. But as the Washington Free Beacon has reported, actually there was a lot of money being raised, and it was being raised by the University of Pennsylvania, and it was being raised from foreign governments after the Biden Center opened. See the connection here? And we're quoting from the piece. Foreign contributions to the University of Pennsylvania tripled since the Penn Biden Center's soft opening in March of 2017, rising from $31 million in 2016 to over $100 million in 2019. Now, where'd all that money come from? Where do you think? The largest foreign contributor was China. And if you go to the webpage for the Penn Biden Center, you get some idea of what that money bought. So on the site, there's a section called, quote, addressing threats to the liberal international order. Russia and Vladimir Putin are mentioned as threats to the liberal international order, but China which is currently committing genocide, is conspicuously not mentioned as a threat to the liberal international order. We took a look at text messages from Hunter Biden's laptop to see if we could find an answer. And we found messages between a senior professor at Penn's International Relations Department to Naomi Biden, that would be Hunter Biden's very young daughter. The message from the professor begins this way, quote, "Dear Naomi, I'm writing you tonight to invite you to take part in a major conference in China at the end of March. I've been asked to help recruit a prominent young leader. They, the Chinese government, will fly you business class and, of course, provide all of your accommodations. I don't think it would surprise you that they are interested in you thanks to your family name. I would not take offense at that. It is truly the Chinese way, and frankly, better you than that dolt, Tiffany Trump. If you're interested, can you send me your CV and or a bio? I would forward that, and you could expect an official invitation from Li Baodong, the Secretary General of the Forum." End quote. Pretty remarkable. As far as we know, that has not been previously reported. So here you have an employee of the University of Pennsylvania, an Ivy League school, sending an invitation apparently on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party to recruit Joe Biden's granddaughter for an influence operation, saying that she'd be flown to Beijing and stay in Chinese government-controlled accommodations. And to all of this, Miranda, you've been on parts of this story for years now. What do you make of this?
And you just wonder why it's come out and really what the true story is about these confidential documents. But as far as the University of Pennsylvania goes, there's a long incestuous symbiotic relationship with the Bidens. Joe Biden, he stepped down from being vice president. He was paid almost $1 million by the University of Pennsylvania. He put his name on that supposed think tank. And in return, I suppose, his name attracted a lot of Chinese money. As you just said, there was, the amount of money that came in from China to the university after Joe Biden opened that think tank, almost quadrupled. It went from about 20 million to over 70, almost 75 million. So you have to look at a quid pro quo there. And then you talk about Naomi Biden, Joe Biden's granddaughter, the oldest daughter of Hunter Biden, and just this very casual offer from a Penn professor of this propaganda tour sponsored and paid for by the Chinese Communist Party with business class tickets. And she asked Hunter what he thought, and he said, go for it and ask for 2 tickets so you can bring your boyfriend. It's apprentice griftership.
Wow. Ask for 2 tickets so you can bring your boyfriend. Now, let's unwind that a little bit. So the communist Chinese money tripled to U Penn once the Biden Center opened. The Biden Center, where classified documents, Obama classified documents, were sitting. No one really monitoring that, right? What could possibly go wrong? Like I said, keep in mind each word, the way it's worded. And we have the liberal international order. What is this liberal international order? And how will it affect you, your life, your freedoms, everything that you take for granted? And it's all being hidden behind this whole green thing. Is it really about the environment, the planet, or is it about control and power? So, in saying that, let's look at Hunter's young daughter, Joe Biden's granddaughter, being recruited.
Attorney General Garland tried to cover up Biden's handling of classified documents because of Hunter Biden. This is interesting. Former Kansas Attorney General Phil Klein joins us about why the assistant United States attorneys assigned to the Hunter Biden case and the classified documents case are not only separate, but from separate regions. If you could expound on that.
Yeah, sure. What you see in the assignment of a special counsel. It's not, the substance is not that a special counsel has been picked. It's what authority that they have to investigate. And when you look at the special counsel as it relates to President Biden, they have a very narrow authority according to the appointment letter, only to look at the documents. Now, let's take a look at it for a second, Dan, at what Attorney General Garland knew when he made this decision. He knew that the documents were found at the Penn Biden Center. He knew that the Penn Biden Center, when they located at the University of Pennsylvania, that the University of Pennsylvania received $47 million while that center was there. That the University of Pennsylvania pushed that money to Biden, and 10 of his cabinet members received salary, up to 10, at the Penn Biden Center, including Mr. Biden. Additionally, at the same time, Hunter's on the Burisma board, the documents pertain to Ukraine. And that would be of interest to those who are concerned about Hunter Biden and who he's dealing with and those who are paying his salary. So you have some evidence of intent as to why the documents should be there, and that evidence of intent relates to the flow of money. There's something else that Attorney General Garland knew. He knew that he had received a letter from the University of Pennsylvania asking that he end the China initiative of the Department of Justice, which is looking at economic espionage by China. Now, you have to understand that 50% of the most wanted list on the FBI's fugitive list relate to espionage by China. He ended it at the request of the University of Pennsylvania. That is a conflict of interest. Yet he only gave the special prosecutor a very narrow focus, while President Trump's special prosecutor can look at everything.
Phil, again, that's why the phones blew up. People are really, really upset about this. I think we're all being scammed. Philip Klein, thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
Monday morning with breaking news of yet another batch of classified documents found in Joe Biden's possession and Biden's neglect in handling America's most sensitive information, with some classified documents discovered in the garage of his Delaware vacation home. On Thursday, Attorney General Merrick Garland named former U.S. Attorney Robert Hur as special counsel to investigate whether Biden broke the law. John, what are you going to do about all of these classified documents being found in Joe Biden's possession?
Well, it just shows the hypocrisy and why the American public does not trust their government. You know, Congress has an independent constitutional obligation to oversee all aspects of the Justice Department, and that includes special counsels as well. And so we will have a role in overseeing what's transpiring here. What's real concerning to me is how justice is applied, and is it applied equally? Why do you raid President Trump? His wasn't just lock, was padlock. They knew it was there. They could have come and taken it at any time they wanted. They were communicating with one another. Now we're finding time and again a locked garage door that opens and closes by a push of the button. How many years has this vice president who's been in office for more than 40 years had these documents? Who's been in and out of there? So they apply a special counsel, but how many agents do they apply to that?
It feels like there's so much politics involved. Devin Nunes, your former colleague, joined me on Friday to talk about Robert Hur. Here's what he said about this new special counsel. Watch.
This special counsel that was appointed to look at Joe Biden is somebody we're very familiar with. He is a Russia hoaxer himself. And I think the Republicans better check in. He has a lot of explaining to do because he was involved in the letter that was from the FBI to the public that said that we were going to endanger national security if we released the memo at the time.
Well, I mean, it's just incredible. It's incredible to me, Speaker McCarthy, that this is the person they chose. He's got, dirt on his hands from the Russia collusion lie.
Of the thousands of people who have worked at the FBI, why is it every time there's an investigation of a Republican, they're always tied together in a small little loop? Couldn't we have an independent person in the FBI that has no ties to anything to investigate something? Why is it always from a small protected group of friends are the only ones that they put in to have counsel? That is why we move for a new select committee of the weaponization. We will get to the bottom of this, no matter how long it takes us and how hard we have to fight.
And you got bipartisan support on China bills. Tell us.
Yes, we got bipartisan support. 146 Democrats joined with us to create a new select committee on China, that we can bring those jobs back from China to America, that America will speak with one voice. This is something that you have looked at, Maria, time and again, our intellectual property being stolen, our farmland and others. We'll look at all aspects of that so we can compete. We also got a bipartisan vote to stop that strategic petroleum reserve for selling our oil that is supposed to be there for a time of emergency off to China and others. 113 Democrats joined with us. So I'd like to see Manchin and others in the Senate bring that bill up and move that to the president's desk.
Wow. There's a lot to unwind right there. And just those a few minutes that we played for you first. Let's take a look at U.S.A. Garland, head of the DOJ, and has control of the FBI to investigate everything. Why is it the FBI investigating Joe Biden and all his connections? We got U Penn. They knew about the salaries and everything else that was going on. 10 staffers received salaries from U Penn. Let that sink in. 10 staffers. We know Joe Biden got $1 million to put his name on the building and got a $900,000 salary. $900,000. And the money came from where? China. You're going to see more amounts being named in our next section of how many millions of dollars were put in to the U.S. Center. So we're sitting here and we're wondering, why would a university, U Penn, lobby to end the investigations into communist China, who just turned around and declared war on us in May of 2019, after they found out about the scandals? Now, put the timeline in there for a minute. In 2019, Joe Biden was involved with this U Penn Center with his name on it, collecting salaries, and they wanted to investigate it. They found the collusion. We have the documents. They're official documents right from the government. Like I said, we put them in a timeline for a book we're going to release. Now we have Biden was, what did I get here? Excuse me a second. Oh yeah. Now we have let's go back to Garland again. So you're going to see a timeline in the next segment, but for now, keep this in mind. That what you heard there was they have all this evidence. They appoint an investigator to Trump and then an investigator to Biden. The difference, which was stated by the Attorney General, the former Attorney General in that clip, was the investigation into Trump. They have free range. They can go anywhere and look for anything. The investigation into Biden is just limited to the documents. They can't investigate anywhere else. Why would a U.S. Attorney General do that? This is serious. We're not talking about when Ron Paul started using the words treason. He's not just talking about the president of the United States, the few doctors he was talking about. He's talking about everybody. And as more comes out, you will become part of this awakening if you listen to the show, because we're going to dig all this out. All that talk during the week and all the barking, it's good for, views and everything else. And many people are running around trying to make a buck. Hey, that's cool. We have no problem with that. But then we look into who is this her who's investigating Trump? Well, he was part of the Russian hoax. He actually signed on to it. That's concerning. And there's word too that came out that I don't know if we have it in a clip, but it came out this week. There's information on Hillary's server in the Biden secret documents. Sounds like there's a lot of people playing a lot of games with each other behind the scenes here. They're playing dirty political politics for power, while we, the people, are paying a price for this. But it turns out that this gentleman, he was born of communist Chinese parents who escaped to the U.S. And I'm saying now he's investigating a former president of the United States. Let that sink in if you're not concerned yet. And we've all heard the stories. If you haven't, I'll explain it. They're also looking into why there's Chinese police and secret police have stations set up across the U.S. to monitor the communist Chinese that are here, and possibly ones who escaped years ago. So could they be intimidating Mr. Her's parents? It all comes down to China. And it all comes down to like treason. As far as selling our strategic oil reserves to China, which is the Biden administration is doing, when they've declared war on us and they're our enemy, I would call that aiding and abetting the enemy. And everybody involved needs to go down. So I don't know who's supposed to do this. We, the people, just can't go there. You're going to hear more on January 6th of what happened when the people did raise objections. And you're going to hear questions about that. So where's our military? Ooh, we already know law enforcement, on the federal level, is severely compromised. But that being said, stay tuned for part 2 of tonight's show, The Awakening, coming up.